It's a lovely autumn morning here in Canberra, and this is the E Plus Nissan Leaf. We've been driving it around for the last 9 months and we've covered well over 25,000 kilometres. This is the real world review of the E Plus Nissan Leaf here in Australia. Welcome to EV for me. This E Plus Leaf was manufactured in Japan 2 years ago. It was part of the first batch to roll off the manufacturing line. It was also one of the first privately imported E Plus Leafs in Australia way back in 2020. So what is the E Plus Leaf like 2 years later? How has it coped in Australian conditions, and how do myself and Kaz use it in everyday life? Originally, when we imported this car, I was hoping to get a little bit more of a drive of it, but because my wife is a disability support worker, she covers 700 kilometres a week in this electric vehicle. So it made more sense for her to drive it more often, and I just use the normal petrol vehicle to go between home and work. So occasionally I get to drive this vehicle, but we've made some huge savings by Kaz driving this vehicle all the time. Let's talk about battery degradation. This car has travelled 35,000 kilometres, 10,000 kilometres from the first owners in Japan and 25,000 kilometres from us. The battery has degraded to 94%. So that means it has lost roughly 6% in range over 2 years. So in about 4 years' time, we can expect this car to degrade down to 90%. That means it would have lost 10% of its original real world range over time. So that means if you go and buy this electric vehicle from your dealer, are you going to be happy in 4 years' time when the battery has degraded down to 90%? Are you going to be happy with that loss in range of 10%, and will it still suit your everyday use? And that's something you have to take into calculation. Let's talk about charging. The Nissan E Plus Leaf has 2 charging ports, a slow charge and a fast charge. Let's talk about slow charge first. We hook it into the J1772. That's the smaller of the 2 charging sockets, and the car charges in between 8 to 9 hours. That will give us a real world range of 300 to 330 kilometres, well short of the predicted WLTP range of 385 kilometres. The fast charging socket, or the DC charging socket, we actually connect when we're going away on long trips. So we'll travel that initial 300 kilometres, we'll hook in the DC fast charger, and it will charge up over about 30 to 40 minutes to about 80%, and then we will just drive for another 240 kilometres just to finish off that trip for the day. And you may ask, what do we do during that 30 to 40 minutes? We eat lunch, or we may walk around town, something you would usually do when you would stop for a rest. Now we'll close the charging hatch. We'll go for a bit of a drive, and we'll see a lady's view on the E Plus Nissan Leaf. We'll see what my wife Kaz thinks of the Nissan Leaf, its good and bad features, and we'll show you a little bit more of the interior. The Japanese E Plus Leaf comes in 2 spec levels. It comes in an X, which is a base spec level, and then it comes in a G spec level, which is the top, which has all the bells and whistles. But Kaz, what are your favourite parts about the E Plus Leaf? Tell me, what do you actually think?
Lots of storage. The centre cup holders, awesome. Spot to put my iPod, really great. My only downfall, centre console between seats, not quite big enough for what I want.
Yeah, it's not all that large, but I suppose gone are the days that we're putting large objects like CDs and things like that in the centre console. Are you happy with the glove box space, hun?
Glove box size makes up for it. It's great.
Yeah, so it's pretty big, it's pretty large. And what do you think of the heated seats and the steering wheel?
That is a lifesaver in winter. Doesn't take long to heat up. My bottom's nice and warm. My hands are nice and warm. It's great.
Yep. So we have individual seat controls for the heated seats, the two front seats, and then a joint control for the rear heated seats, just for your passengers, or in our case,
The dog.
Ali the Samoyed, who likes to have a bit of a ride in the E Plus Leaf, and she likes to stick her head out the window. Yeah, so you know, all those base heating systems are there for in the middle of winter anyway. So we better chat about boot space. What do you think about the boot space?
The boot is huge. It takes a lot of bags, which is great when I go shopping with my clients.
Yep, and it holds a bit over 400 litres with the seats up, and we do not have the BOSE option with this car. That's where you get the subwoofer in the boot. And the great thing, yeah, you don't really need a subwoofer in the boot unless you like listening to doof music or maybe classical. The problem is that subwoofer takes up room on your in your boot on the floor, and it just stops you putting in that 1 or 2 extra shopping bags. But you know, apart from that, the overall storage of the Nissan Leaf is pretty good. You know, you've got those cup holders, well, the bottle holders in the doors, don't you?
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah, it'll hold.
They're handy.
It'll hold water bottles in the doors as well. So the thought of everything as in storage, and the battery doesn't intrude too much into the boot as well. So overall storage for this vehicle is really good. It's top notch, and we're more than happy with it. So, Kaz, what do you think of the one-touch climate control system?
Very handy. The defrosts the car really quickly early in the mornings when I start work. Heats up the car really quickly.
So you haven't got to wait for that 5 or 10 minutes for engine heat to kind of build up before you get hot air?
No, hot air is almost instant.
So it works within that 30 seconds?
Yeah.
And this is a great feature of the Japanese E Plus Leaf. We have that advanced climate control system where basically you just hit auto and set your temperature in your fan, and it just operates. You don't have to do anything else, and as we said previously, it heats up quickly. Really handy in the middle of a cold Canberra winter. There is a base spec climate control, but they don't sell that in Japan, but I think it's on the Australian model, where you just get the 2 knobs and a couple of buttons, and that's all wonderful. But the problem is with that climate control system, it is only on the aircon side, it's only cooling. But with the advanced climate control system in the Japanese E Plus Leaf, you have heating and cooling from the air conditioning system. So it's actually a reverse cycle. And the reason the Japanese put that in the E Plus Leaf is it's more energy efficient, and it saves a little bit of your battery power, whereas the base spec one draws more battery power and it's less energy efficient. So that's why the Japanese went down that path to put in a really top-notch climate control system, in the E Plus JDM Nissan Leaf. We also have our entertainment system, or the radio, within the Nissan Leaf itself, and we have our nice large display, and our radio is still configured for Japanese, so a little bit of the writing is Japanese, but it's not too bad. We just flick through radio stations. Do you use your iPod at all?
I use the iPod a lot, and it's great.
Yep. The native maps on the actual radio itself, it's still set for Japan, but you know, that can be easily converted over. This Japanese radio can be converted over to English with Australian maps, but you know, the native navigation systems on the modern day cars, no one uses them anyway. They just use Google Maps, and they just throw up Google Maps on the screen from either CarPlay or Android Auto, and then you can see if you're going to run out of energy before you hit the next charging station with a better route planner. And most of the apps are put up onto the radio itself these days, so it doesn't matter whether your radio's either in Japanese or English. It just doesn't matter at all, as long as you can listen to your iPod, listen to your radio stations, use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You know, you're pretty much right to go. One of the best features of this car is the smart rear view mirror. OMG, that's what the kids say these days, isn't it, Kaz?
Oh, it's a life changer.
It is. And the way it operates is you have a camera in the boot of the car, and you have basically a TV screen on the mirror itself. So myself and Kaz, I'm super tall and she's super short, and the problem is when I jump in the driver's seat, I have to flick the mirror up to a certain position, and then when she jumps back into the seat again,
I flick it down.
She flicks it down, and vice versa. But the great thing is, because the smart rear view mirror doesn't operate on the actual reflection of what's behind you, it just purely works off the camera. You just have to adjust the rear view mirror, and you can see it at multiple different angles, and it just doesn't matter.
And at night time, there's no glare from the lights from the car behind us.
Yes,
it's awesome.
That is fantastic. There's no glare, you know, so you're not blinded when someone has the high beam on behind your vehicle. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. And if you don't want to use your smart rear view mirror, I don't know why you wouldn't want to.
Turn it off.
Yeah, you can turn it off. You just flick it and it just acts as a normal mirror. So, you know, that is one of the musts features of the E Plus Nissan Leaf, the smart rear view mirror. You know, cars should have had this technology years ago. Another camera system on this car is the 360 view camera, and that's a camera system that displays all around the car, all 360 degrees above it, around you. So it's as if there's a drone above the car, and it shows you the front, back, left and right. And such a handy feature for when you're trying to get in the car parking spaces. You can see if you're going to hit any car.
My favourite part of this car is that camera.
Yep. It warns you if you're going to get close to
obstacles.
obstacles.
Yeah, lots of sensor lights, so you know if you're getting close to anything, and it warns you. It's great.
Yep, and it just displays this up on the radio screen. You know, it just paints the car in the centre, and yeah, it just shows you all around the car. So, you know, it makes it almost impossible to hit anything when you're going to park the car, doesn't it?
That's right.
The E Plus Leaf has two cruise control systems. So you have the basic cruise control and you have your Pro Pilot. So the basic one first. So that just enables you to set the cruise control to a specific speed. It's also adaptive. So if the car in front slows down, the cruise control will compensate and slow the vehicle down as well.
Handy in traffic jams.
Yeah, handy in traffic jams and things of that nature. But the problem is with this system, like you have the buttons on the steering wheel, but you also have another button just near your right knee. So instead of having all the buttons on the steering wheel, you've got your buttons in two places, which is pretty silly. But then we have the Pro Pilot cruise control system, which has all the buttons in the same place on the steering wheel, and it does the adaptive cruise control, but it also does steering assist or lane keep, and that's where the actual car kind of steers in the lane itself, and you don't even have to touch the steering wheel. Not something that you'd use around the city. It's probably a feature that you would use on a highway or something of that nature. But it's a bloody good system, the Pro Pilot system, you know, and every E Plus Leaf should have this system. Just, you know, just for the ease, just using the buttons in the one place instead of having to use the buttons on the steering wheel and down near your knee as well on the dash. That's a bit of a silly setup. Whereas Pro Pilot cruise control system just has it all in the one place, and that's one thing I like about Pro Pilot. The highest spec level G E Plus Leaf that's made in Japan also comes with Pro Parking. This is also an option on the X-Type E Plus Leaf. And Pro Parking is basically you pull up adjacent to a car parking spot, and you basically hit the button and the car will vehicle essentially park itself. We chose not to have this option.
Would have been handy, but yeah, not essential.
No, we didn't find it necessary, so we just didn't bother getting the Pro parking. But other people may find yeah, it's just convenient if they're having trouble parking their vehicle. There's 2 energy recovery systems in this vehicle, so when you take your foot off the accelerator, all that energy to slow down goes back into your battery. Well, not all of it, but some of it. So basically there's B mode, so you just select B mode on your toggle joystick and drive turns into B, and then when you slow your vehicle down, like you take your foot off the accelerator, all that energy and some of that energy in braking actually goes back into the battery. And there's a more severe mode of operation, it's called ePedal. So when you engage ePedal on your E Plus Leaf, when you take your foot off the accelerator, the car is a little bit more aggressive in braking and it will actually come to a complete stop. Now take note that when you do this energy recovery and you put it back into the battery, it's not as if you're going to gather an extra 20 or 30% in range. You know, most of the energy recovery comes from not running the electric motor, just keeping the car going forward. So that energy you get from the braking effort, yeah, sure, a little bit of it goes back into the battery, but you may only get, you know, an extra 10, 15, 20 kilometers range at an absolute max.
So don't rely on it.
Yeah,
to get more energy
over a long trip. So don't think that you're going to get an extra 100 kilometers range. That's just waffle. Yeah,
you're dreaming.
You're dreaming. Yeah, you'll just get that extra 15 or 20 kilometers. So it is a nice feature. ePedal, because it's more aggressive, you can drive the car with one pedal, just accelerator pedal, and it'll just come to a halt when you take your foot off the pedal. But look, I think it's a bit gimmicky. Do you use ePedal, hun?
No.
No. So look, it's there if you want to use it, but otherwise, yeah, it's your own preference basically. Another feature we forgot to mention previously is V2G. So this car is capable of connecting to the grid, vehicle to grid. So you can essentially plug your car into the house and it can actually power your house. Now, current charging systems in Australia are in development at the moment, and the V2G chargers are worth between $8,000 and $10,000. So, you know, if you want to go down that path, having a little bit of battery storage to your house, yeah, just do it. Go down that path if you feel it's necessary. But we're not going to go down the V2G path because we have a 5 megawatt hour Tesla battery that just sits in the suburb, and that just keeps our suburb nice and happy, absorbing all that energy, and we don't really see the need in spending $8,000 or $10,000 in activating the V2G functionality of this vehicle. So we don't find it necessary, but some people may want to, so that's a choice on an individual basis. Okay, basic specs. So this car has a 160 kilowatt motor. It has a curb weight of 1,670 kilos. That's an E Plus Japanese version. The Aussie version comes in at just over 1,700 kilos, and that's due to the fact it has a spare tyre. 0 to 100 in 6.9 seconds, so it's pretty quick off the mark. And yeah, they're the basic specs of the Japanese E Plus Leaf. Finally, we'll go through a different part of the review, and this is something you won't see in most reviews, is what has broken on this E Plus Nissan Leaf over the last year or two. So apart from the usual maintenance such as tyres and such forth, which is par for the course, we had the Nissan Click in the front right hand wheel, and that's just basic lubrication of the axle splines with a bit of molly grease. Your Nissan dealers should be able to fix that. We fixed this one ourselves because it wasn't covered under warranty because we imported, but it's a very, very common fault with, you know, the ZE1 Leaf. Every so often they get the old Nissan Click and it has to be rectified, so that's not a really big problem at all. Next, we'll talk about costs and we'll talk about ways you can purchase this vehicle, and we'll mention full on-road costs so you know what you're up for, the full cost of everything. So we'll move on to that right now. There are a couple of ways to purchase the E Plus Leaf. You can import this car yourself through a licensed import agent in Australia, and they will guide you through the whole Japanese auction process. The only problem is there'll be no international warranty on this car, but this risk can be mitigated by getting a battery report or leaf spy report on the actual electric vehicle itself, and you can also get an inspection report from the Japanese agent on the ground in Japan. The cost will be between $42,000 and $49,000 landed here in Australia, and that covers rego and everything. But if importing yourself is a little bit daunting, you can also go through a local dealer or shopfront that specializes in Japanese imported vehicles that will do all the legwork for you. You may get a limited warranty, and that will cost you between $49,000 and $55,000. Or you could buy the E Plus Leaf from your local Nissan dealer, brand new, covered fully under Australian warranty, and it will cost you $64,990. But it may not have all those extra Japanese features, such as Pro Pilot, Pro Parking, Smart Rear View Mirror, or the heat pump under the climate control. You'll have to check with your local Nissan dealer to see if they can actually add on those extra options. Other cars that are at the similar price point to the E Plus Leaf is the Tesla Model 3, which will give you a similar range to this vehicle, and you also have the added advantage of utilizing the Tesla network. And then there's also the Hyundai Kona Electric, which will get that real world range up towards the 400 kilometer mark. Two other options to the E Plus Nissan Leaf. For more information about the E Plus Nissan Leaf, you can go visit your local Nissan dealer, and you can also check out the Nissan Leaf Owners Australia Facebook group, which will give you an insight into this car, the Japanese and the Australian version. We'll leave a link for that in the description down below. As always, if you want to follow our adventures, go to our Twitter page, EV4Me2, check that out. Leave your comments down below, subscribe and hit that bell when you want to know when a new vlog is uploaded, and we'll catch you next time.